Right. So today's talk, we've got radiation as a topic. So certainly radiation can be an issue for certain individuals. And with the amount of radiation that exists today, you can't run away from it. You have it from fluorescent light bulbs you can see up there. You have it from the actual sun if you get too close, when you're beyond the ozone layer, the protective layers in the atmosphere. So obviously being in a plane brings you closer to the sun. And whenever I try to fly when there's a lot of cloud cover, or try to fly closer to when it's evening, whether the sun is rising or it's on its way to setting, to minimize that exposure. But let's talk about what you can control also when you're at home or in your office. We know that radiation can be a problem. We know that it actually disturbs the water. For example, we think of a microwave. Microwaves actually emit a specific harmful type of radiation to humans, and it's emitting it and sending that into water. So the water of your food or the water in a mug, and that creates heat and energy. So think of it as really angry energy. And that's one of the reasons why we're advised to stay away from a microwave. Now, I found that even though if you keep the microwave door closed, you can actually detect with this particular trimeter. This is an older version. Now that you can get a newer version, you can actually detect that this is actually picking up radiation 4 to 5 feet out while the microwave is on and the door is closed. And that's what I noticed. And so also, in addition to that, I found that when it's not on, it could be emitting some electromagnetic radiation, probably a good foot or two, even though it's turned off. So this is an excellent device that we can use. And if we turn it on to magnetic, it's right now that's magnetic. Okay, good. And I can put even close to my phone, my computer, and you see even there's some. Okay, so let me put it a little bit lower. Okay, so as you go closer to the battery, whenever there's an electrical power supply, it actually starts to pick up. So I'm going to just bring it closer. We have here, it's close to 0. And right behind this door is an actual circuit breaker box. And so I'm just going to put this closer to it. And so as you can see, we get closer, it starts to rise. And you can see here within probably 6 inches, it's at full level. And as we pull away, now here you can still pick up, this is about 1 foot away. So I recommend having one of these to just confirm how far you need to stand from the circuit breaker. You wouldn't want to take your worst enemy and say, hey, come over here. Well, let's have a conversation. Why don't you stand here next to this device? Oh, you need to be in 60. This is just more for your safety measures. And also, if you have a circuit breaker on this side, you want to know what's on the other side of the wall. So for example, if I go into this room, I'm going to want to make sure I don't have anybody hanging out close to this room. And that's one of the reasons why we have this particular desk set up where it creates a little space so they're not as close to this wall here. So you can see here, wow, that immediately within 6 inches gets to full blast. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'm pulling it closer and I get closer to the wall and it increases. So, this is a really good device to have to just kind of detect what's going on. Now, you'll find that you can find electromagnetic radiation closer to where there's sockets, wherever there's actual electrical wires behind the walls. Even here, there's an outlet. And for example, there's an outlet here, and we can take a look, see what we can find. And you can see now this could be being emitted by the filter I have on here. Now I have 2 brands of different filters, and I'll talk about those in a second. Let's take a look here without the filter. Yep, it's being picked up even without the filter on. So the filters that I have 2 different types of EMF filters. I have the green wave, and then I have the Sterilizers. Now, when you go online and you look at all the blog posts and the articles and the sales sheets being by the 2 different companies to differentiate, they're always going to competitively sell against each other. And I have them both, because what I found is that when you have the combination of the 2, sometimes you can get the best output, a best effect of lowering the dirty electricity or electromagnetic radiation within the home. And what I love about Sterilizers is they're super simple, but the costs are very much the same. The green wave, what's great is they have an outlet, because you're going to be plugging these in to an actual outlet, and you're going to lose an outlet. So if you don't have a power strip, you're going to be losing one of those. And it's really key to make sure that you are actually, not losing outlets if you need them, okay, and if you don't have a power strip. And what's great about the Green Wave brand is that they actually do provide a filter to kind of detect how much dirty electricity is flowing through. And you'll find that it increases and decreases at different times of the day. Oftentimes in the evening, it may drop. So I'm going to put this in, and so you can actually take a look to see the reading and it shows 202. Over here's 202. Now, I have a couple filters all around the office, and so it may be lower, but there's also a sound. I don't know if you can hear the sound. It's a bit of a buzz. Okay, and then if I plug this in, it drops down to 5. So it went from 205 to 5. If I pull this back out, it comes up in this sets riser. And what you can do is you can put this on different circuits, and you can take the different filters and put it on. And then this one brings it down to 8. So whether it's a difference of 3 millivolts makes a difference is really, really small, because without all the filters that I have running around the office, it gets to as high as 1,000. And this particular meter actually, it becomes really, really loud. And so the question is, why do we want to decrease our electromagnetic radiation exposure? Well, there are studies, there's an excellent documentary, I think it's Take Back Your Power, that shows the effects of electromagnetic radiation on the health of the red blood cells. And there was a live blood analysis showing that that we're healthier when we're not exposed to it. And when we are exposed to it, a lot of our blood will start to coagulate and clump together, and which is a sign that it's not quite all that healthy. It's simple. If you want to test electromagnetic radiation, as simple as an AM radio, you can get this. This one says Radio Shack. I don't even know if Radio Shack still exists. If they still exist, let me know in the comments. I've had these for, gosh, I don't know how many years. I have multiple of these. I have one in each of my bug out bags that I have in each of my vehicles. So I have a bunch of these. I don't know if these are still available for sale. You might still be able to find them. They're really expensive, but simple. So it runs off 2 AA batteries. And if you run the AM, you can then turn it on. And when you take it close to any fluorescent light, you should start hearing, if there's dirty electricity, you'll hear it start to fizzle out. Okay, so you can even find a station with some music, okay, so we can find a station. So it's pretty clear, like there's a signal. Okay, and then if I start to get close to, now I don't have a ladder, but I could throw it, right? I could throw it close. Okay, so I'm not going to do that because I don't want to break a light bulb, but the idea is as you get closer to fluorescent lighting, which is known to emit dirty electricity, you'll start to hear it actually fade. And a simple way to know that there's dirty electricity blocking or preventing the transmission of the AM waves. A simple example to describe how this is happening, just imagine you are listening to a baseball game and you're driving your car and you're passing by some power lines and you lose the signal. And then those power lines are a little bit further away and then the signal comes back. So that's just an example of how the AM radio waves can travel, but then as soon as it hits some sort of dirty electricity, which is power lines or fluorescent lighting, then it gets distorted and you can't hear it clearly. So these things are very important. I'm going to show you on screen what really woke me up to radiation and the possible dangers of them is this particular story that I found online. And you can go ahead and do a Google search, but this individual went on to the news channels, the local news channels, and talked about her story, how she would actually go out with her friends and she would not put her cell phone in her pockets. She would put her cell phone in a little hole that was actually designed by the bra that she specifically purchased. And she actually over time developed a tumor at the exact location. And so of course, there's a lot of debate whether cell phones are safe, whether radiation is safe, whether, because it's loud and it's legal and there's organizations that approve it. There are certain safety measures, but is it safe enough? And that's the question that you want to ask. Are you taking all the precautions to make sure that you are protecting yourself, your staff, your employees, your patients, your family, your friends, your loved ones, everyone you care about? Are you taking all the precautionary measures to minimize the exposure to what's could be potentially harmful? And so anyways, you can go and Google and look at her story. And that's where I started becoming very much interested in what I can do to prevent, not only minimizing exposure, we can't avoid it all the time. Like I fly and there's Wi-Fi now on the on the planes. There's Wi-Fi there, which to me, it's just like, wow, that's crazy. There were decades where we didn't have any internet, we didn't have any cell phones, we didn't have these towers that all around where we live. So that's something to be aware of where the towers are located relative to your vicinity. You know, are you close to a tower? Are you in the direct line in which the signals are being transmitted? So those are things you want to be aware of, but we can't avoid it. And so when people come into clinic and I find that there's potential radiation harm, whether it's Wi-Fi, some cell phones, or even getting too many x-rays. You know, I actually treat colleagues who are chiropractors who have an x-ray machine, and there's a lot of particles that, you know, and it's usually the exposure comes when they actually treat in the room in which the x-rays have been done. And, you know, so there's that potential to accumulate. Now, obviously, if you get an x-ray once every few years, that's a really small amount and really low risk. It's nothing to get really angry about, but just know that there's radiation in all areas of our lives in different places, from every outlet to every time you're on a plane to every time someone turns on their microwave. So just be aware of that. And there are specific nutritional and herbal supports that can strengthen your body to be resistant to radiation toxicity. And radiation toxicity has been known to be helpful and resolved by certain herbs. I'll give you an example. After the Chernobyl accident, when there was the reactor that just released or unleashed all this radiation to the local population, there were some good herbs that were being used to treat individuals. And one of the herbs is eleuthero, also known as Siberian ginseng. And in Chinese, it's a 刺五加. Okay, so a lot of the acupuncturists will learn it based on the pinyin, the Chinese name. And there's other herbs that are been known to be helpful for radiation recovery or preventing damage due to radiation exposure. Another herb is ginkgo. You know, when the atomic bomb was released in Japan, the only thing that remained alive and standing was the ginkgo tree. So when we talk about ginkgo biloba, and we have a lot of great herbs that are high quality extracts based on the ginkgo leaf. So ginkgo is very important. Of course, there's vitamin P. Not a lot of discussion or mainstream media covers vitamin P, but vitamin P is very supportive in preventing damage to radiation exposure. And vitamin P, which is known as the permeability factor, it typically is going to be those bioflavonoids that are rich in colors, and it's going to be rich in buckwheat seed leaf. So these are certain things that we implement in our clinic to help individuals who we identify have had a severe amount or just extreme exposure to radiation, and it's preventing them from healing or preventing them from reaching optimal health. And so these are factors that you should consider. You know, are you being exposed to radiation? How much, where, how often? And then what measures can you take to distance yourself from it? Now, obviously, we cannot run away from it entirely. You know, if you live in an apartment complex and there are 100 units and there's 100 Wi-Fi units going through your body, you can't run away from that. When I was in Shanghai and, you know, I would meet with my wife and go visit her, within the subway, there would be 300 cell phones at least on every train ride. So think about all of those cell phone signals going through you all at once. And then let alone the maglev or the subways were also operating on electricity. So there's a lot of electromagnetic radiation that's generated within that field, because it has to, you know, it's emanating from the train within, and you're in the train. And I was getting exposed to all of that. So, you know, we can't run away from it, but what we can do is take measures nutritionally and herbally to strengthen our body and our cells so that we are protected from that damage. All right, so this is a little bit of information. Hopefully these are some of the tools that can help you out, make your home, your office a little bit cleaner electromagnetically. And then you've got some idea of certain herbs and nutritional support. And, you know, just think of strategies, some strategies that we have when we, for example, the laptop, they no longer call them laptops because now they're finding that it's probably quite dangerous to put a battery that has a certain amount of electromagnetic radiation being emitted. They don't recommend you put on a lap. So I still put a pillow in between. Now, I, of course, invested in something called the Defender Pad, which has specific metal to deflect the extra electromagnetic radiation from the battery of the computer. But if you don't have that, you can just have a pillow. And I found using the meters, actually not this one, the tri-field meter, using the tri-field meter, it's about a good 6 inches or so. So put a thick pillow, then put your laptop. That's already way better than directly putting your laptop on your lap or on your chest, or wherever you're doing, okay, wherever, even your iPad, don't have it, your phone, have them all in airplane mode, distance them from you in the evenings. We have some Wi-Fi speakers. I put those on a timer. So oftentimes we'll take the cell phone and we want to play music around the entire house, and we shouldn't have that Wi-Fi or that Bluetooth on during the evenings while we're sleeping. So it's actually on a timer. And of course, in the beginning, we tried to consciously turn them on and turn them off, but it was just too difficult, a lot of work, nothing that I want to spend every single day turning on and off. So we put it on a timer, and we want to turn on the music, turn it on, connect to the Bluetooth, we can find it. Then when we're sleeping, it's off. Obviously, we're not going to be playing music then. So a lot of other strategies you can implement. I mean, even in one house, we even just, we don't even use our microwave at all, other than when we did use it for a clock and a timer purposes. It's just the time, set a timer to remind us to get to the next task. And when we realize that we can actually look at time and use the timer on our phone, which is, you know, I've unplugged it in one of the houses that I've lived in because it's just not necessary to be exposed. One area also in the home is whatever appliances use a lot of electricity are going to emit a good amount of electromagnetic radiation. That includes a refrigerator. So if you were to take this meter around your refrigerator, you're going to find that actually it extends pretty far out. Probably a washer dryer. I haven't tested those yet, but I'm assuming the same thing. So just be cautious of that and be aware of it. You're not going to be hanging out laying down next to your refrigerator, ideally, or next to your refrigerator or washer. But if it's on the other side of a wall that you are sleeping at or sleeping next to, you maybe want to concern. The other thing you want to look at is your smart meter. I have a smart meter filter. Thankfully, we live in a home in which it's placed at the far edge corner of the home where there's no one sleeping. It's on the edge, on the outside of the garage. In my previous home, we actually straight up changed it to an analog meter. Now, depending on where you live, you can convert it to analog. And but if you can't convert to analog, or you find that might be troubling, you can go on Amazon and find a filter to just place over it. And in the price between $30 to $40, I believe, is what they're going for nowadays. The other is there's other strategies. You can start painting with specific lead or aluminum. I don't recommend that because now you're exposing yourself to additional heavy metals, but it will stop the flow of the radiation. So perhaps you only select the walls that are directly behind the smart meter, so you can reflect it outward away from the home. So there's all kinds of strategies. You can go online, but these are the couples that you want to look at. And nutritionally, you know, ginkgo and eleuthero, rhodiola as well. You know, it's an adaptogen, very, very solid for balancing hormones and protecting against radiation. Okay, I think I've gone long enough. If you have any questions regarding functional nutrition, how you can strengthen your body to resist the potential exposures to various forms of harmful radiation that are in our environment, feel free to reach out to me anytime.